Welcome back to the Weekly Education Pulse. I'm Sammy.
And I'm Tony. Each week we bring to you a fast, focused roundup of the stories shaping international education around the world.
In today's episode, we're covering 7 major updates, from school closures in Portugal to the rapid evolution of international curricula in India, English medium higher education growth in Japan, new school openings in Boston, Finland's latest education reforms, a big acquisition in the UK independent sector, and finally, shifting parental preferences in Zimbabwe.
It's a mix of marketing signals, policy shifts, and demographic changes, all of which tell us something about where global education is heading next.
So let's get straight into this week's stories, and we begin with Portugal, where Aljezur International School in Algarve has been ordered to close by authorities, and according to news reports, it may not be the only school facing compulsory shutdown.
This story has caused a lot of worry across Portugal's international school sector. The closure relates to a compliance issue flagged by regulators, but what's significant is that investigation appears to be widening to other small private and international schools across the region.
Yeah, Portugal's Education Inspectorate has been tightening oversight, particularly around licensing, teacher qualifications, and facility standards. And while this is part of a broader push for quality assurance, it's created real anxiety, especially for boutique and community-based international schools.
There's a broader context here. The Algarve's international school market has expanded quickly over the past decade due to remote work migration, returning Portuguese families, and the rise of lifestyle relocations. Oversight hasn't always kept pace with that growth.
Right. And while the premium operators in Lisbon and Cascais tend to be well resourced and fully aligned with regulations, the smaller independent schools in coastal and rural regions often operate on tighter margins and more vulnerable when regulatory expectations increase suddenly.
So if more schools do come under review, we could see a reshaping of provision in the Algarve, possibly favouring larger operators or those well-established brands that can meet the compliance requirements more easily.
Yeah, but the immediate concern is for families, particularly those mid-year, who may be forced to seek places elsewhere in a region that already has high demand and limited capacity in some areas.
This is definitely one to watch. It could signal a new phase of consolidation and stricter governance in Portugal's fast-growing international school market. And now, over to India, where a major analysis by the Indian Express highlights one of the most important shifts in the country's K-12 sector, the rapid rise of international curricula, particularly IB, Cambridge, and increasingly the Western Australian Certificate of Education.
Yeah, the article captures something we've been observing for a while. India's international school landscape is no longer niche, it's becoming mainstream. The IB, for example, has doubled in the last decade. Cambridge continues to expand aggressively. And now WACE is emerging as a scalable, skills-focused alternative that aligns well with India's national education policy.
That's a key point. The national education policy has opened the door for more flexible, competency-based models. Families are increasingly looking for global pathways, but also for curricula that emphasize applied learning, inquiry, and skills development, rather than just rote memorization.
Yeah, exactly. The demand is particularly strong among aspirational middle-class families who want international outcomes without sending their children abroad, which is why WACE, which we spoke about previously before, is so interesting because it's offering that global recognition, but at a lower cost than the IB or some Cambridge programs. That's why we're seeing so many Indian schools adopting it as a third pillar of international education.
The article also points out that fees can vary enormously, from high-end IB schools with world-class facilities to more mid-market Cambridge and WACE schools that are aiming for accessibility. So this creates both opportunity and pressure in the market.
Yeah, and the pressure is real. Schools adopting international curricula need qualified teachers, new resources, and robust assessment systems. And India is now one of the most competitive teacher recruitment markets globally, especially for IB and Cambridge trained educators.
But what's clear is that India's education landscape is pivoting. Now, international pathways are no longer reserved for the elite. They're becoming part of that national conversation, aligned with the policy reforms, university aspirations, and a growing middle class.
So, big picture, well, India's on track to become one of the world's largest hubs for international style education, not just in major metropolitan cities like Mumbai or Delhi, but increasingly those tier 2 and tier 3 cities as well.
A transformation is well underway, and one that will reshape the global education map for the next decade.
And we're heading eastwards to Japan, where the Japan Times reports that more universities are significantly expanding their English medium programs, a major strategic shift aimed at boosting global competitiveness and attracting international students.
This is part of Japan's long-running effort to internationalize its higher education sector. But what's different now is obviously that scale. Universities aren't just offering a handful of courses in English, but many are moving entire degree pathways to full English delivery.
Yeah, the goal you can see has been twofold. Attracting more international students to Japanese universities, and also preparing Japanese students for a global job market that increasingly values bilingualism and cross-cultural fluency.
The article highlights something important. Enrollment demographics are shifting. Japan has seen a rising interest from students from across Southeast Asia, South Asia, and parts of Africa. English medium degrees make the country far more accessible.
And also highlights that, or helps address Japan's demographic challenge that it's facing with a declining youth population. Universities need international students to maintain enrollment stability. English taught tracts give them a competitive edge against regional hubs like Singapore, South Korea, and also Hong Kong.
This is not only about international students. More Japanese students are now choosing English medium courses domestically instead of going abroad, and that keeps talent in the country while preparing them for global careers.
Yeah, the big picture here is that Japan's higher education sector is undergoing a quiet but significant transformation, shifting from a traditionally insular model towards a more open, globally connected system.
And with universities investing heavily in English delivered degrees, partnerships, and international accreditation, Japan is positioning itself as a major contender in Asia's competitive higher education landscape. And now to the United States, where the German International School of Boston has officially opened a brand new campus in Watertown, Massachusetts. Its new site will serve preschool through grade 3 students, expanding the school's footprint beyond its main K-12 campus in Boston.
And this expansion is very much demand driven. The Boston metropolitan area continues to see strong growth in families looking for bilingual, immersion based education, particularly German and French programs, which have deep cultural and academic roots in the region.
Exactly. And what GSB is doing here is a smart strategic move. They're adding capacity at the entry point of the school. Early years, lower primary, where the wait lists tend to be longest.
And a dedicated early years campus also allows the school to tailor the whole environment specifically for younger learners, from play-based learning spaces and outdoor areas to early literacy immersion in German and English.
It's broader, part of a broader trend in the US. You've got more international schools and those bilingual schools coming in, expanding into satellite or specialized lower school campuses to manage demand and create smoother pathways into the main K-12 programs.
Yeah, it's particularly noticeable in cities with strong research, tech, biotech hubs, and Boston being a prime example of that. Those sectors attract globally mobile families and they tend to value bilingual education very highly.
So this new campus does two things. It absorbs that growing demand in the early years, and it strengthens the German International School's long-term pipeline of students into its middle and upper grades.
Yeah, a great example of sustainable strategic expansion in a high demand US market. And our next story, well, we're flying back to Europe and we're going to Finland, where the rapid growth of English medium schooling, both in public and private international schools, has sparked national debate over language policy and cultural identity.
The number of Finnish students enrolled in English language programs has continued to climb. In some municipalities, demand now exceeds supply, prompting expansion of bilingual and international tracks.
But the debate is becoming sharper. Critics argue that too much English in schooling risks weakening Finnish and also Swedish, the country's two official languages, especially if students spend a majority of their lesson time in English.
Exactly. And underneath that is a deeper concern, a deeper concern whether Finland, known globally for its strong public education system, is shifting towards a more stratified landscape where English medium pathways become associated with privilege and advantage.
On the other hand, supporters say these programs are essential for attracting international talent, be it researchers, tech professionals, and again, globally mobile families, especially in Helsinki, Espoo, and other fast growing innovation hubs.
And Finnish families themselves are driving a lot of that demand. More parents want their children to have global mobility, access to international curricula, and strong English proficiency for university pathways.
Now, what's interesting is that policymakers are now being forced to balance two priorities. It's protecting national languages and cultural cohesion and ensuring Finland remains competitive in a global talent market.
And that continues to kind of reflect the broader trends we're seeing across Europe, from Netherlands to Germany, where internationalization in schooling is growing faster than regulatory frameworks can adapt.
So, I guess you could take it that Finland's debate is not really about English alone, it's about what kind of education ecosystem a small, globally connected nation needs for the future. And well, we'll stay in Europe and we're going to the UK, where Inspired Learning Group, one of the country's rapidly expanding private school operators, has acquired Shrewsbury High School, a well established independent girls' school with deep historic roots.
The acquisition is significant for a few reasons. First, Shrewsbury High School has been part of the Girls' Day School Trust network, which is known for its strong academic profile and mission driven ethos. A move from a charitable trust into a private education group marks a major operational shift.
Yeah, and an Inspired Learning Group has been expanding aggressively, much like other school groups that we've been talking about in previous episodes. They already operate dozens of schools across the UK and have been positioning themselves in that mid-market and also premium independent segments. So adding Shrewsbury High School strengthens their footprint in the Midlands and gives them another academically respected campus in their portfolio.
And it highlights a trend we've been following closely. Continued consolidation among the UK independent schools, financial pressures, rising operational costs, and demographic shifts are all driving schools to seek acquisition or partnership to stay competitive.
For families, well, the key question is going to be continuity. So whether Inspired Learning will maintain the school's identity, academic standards, and historic ethos under new ownership. And early indications show that they're going to be investing in facilities, digital learning, and long-term campus development.
And we've seen this, the private operators stepping in to stabilize or scale schools that might struggle as independents, while leveraging group level efficiencies in finance, HR, and academic support.
Yeah, so this acquisition isn't just about one school changing hands. It's another sign of how the UK independent school sector is restructuring itself, with larger groups playing an increasingly central role in long-term stability. And final story for this week. Well, we're going to Africa, to Zimbabwe, where a new report highlighting 6 of the country's best primary schools is getting attention for what it reveals about shifting parental priorities.
Yeah, the piece spotlights schools that are managing to balance three things parents care deeply about: quality teaching, modern facilities, and, of course, affordability. And that combination is becoming increasingly important in Zimbabwe's education landscape.
Exactly. While Zimbabwe has long been known for strong academic traditions, many families today are searching for schools that offer more holistic, future focused learning. Things like ICT integration, co-curricular breadth, and strong pastoral systems, but without the premium international school fees.
What's also interesting is how diverse the featured schools are. Some are well-established independents with, strong academic reputation. Other are new entrants positioning themselves as modern, value-driven alternatives. It reflects a market that's broadening, not just at the top end, but across the mid-market too.
And the article highlights an important trend we're seeing globally: parental demand for accessible excellence. Families want the benefits of international style education, be it strong English medium instruction, technology rich learning, and global competencies, but at a price point that aligns with local economic realities.
This is similar to patterns we've tracked in other markets like Kenya, India, South Africa. Demand is rising fastest at the space between the government schools and the ultra premium tier. Schools that can deliver quality at a sustainable fee level are the ones that are gaining traction.
Yeah, in Zimbabwe, that mid-market positioning is becoming particularly important as urbanization increases and more families from professional backgrounds seek globally relevant schooling for their children.
So while this article presents a simple top 6 list, it actually points to a much bigger story: the rise of competitive, well-resourced primary education options that sit outside the traditional premium sector, and how that's reshaping parent expectations and school strategy in Zimbabwe. And that's it for this week's edition of the Weekly Education Pulse.
Yeah, it's only a wide-ranging set of stories this week, from consolidation and closures in Europe to curriculum transformation in India, internationalization across Japan and the US, and evolving family expectations in Africa.
It's clear as international education continues to diversify, new models, new markets, and new pressures reshaping the landscape in real time.
As always, we'd love to hear your thoughts. Which of this week's stories stood out most for you? Please drop a comment below.
And don't forget to like, share, and subscribe so you don't miss out on next week's Global Roundup.
Yeah, thanks for watching and see you next time.